I want to hear more about the working capital aspect, and just how the SBA gets involved from that standpoint, and how it changes things for a small business.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that, Khalil. You know, before there's definitely SBA products for working capital, and we use express lines that can go up to 500,000, and those are primarily to meet short-term needs. And then if you get closer to 1 million and above, then there's other products, that are called like cap line, governed by borrowing base, receivables, and for that. But when companies start inquiring about working capital needs, we always like to ask a few questions just to kind of understand what's the main reason behind the working capital need, right? So like, hey, what's your working capital cycle looks like? And especially in this environment, I mean, just the lines of credit just almost doubled within the last 18 months, and interest rate. And so the cost of capital for companies, really, it's been a topic. And so that when we're talking about with clients these days, it's just how can they be more strategic on their payment, right? How they're paying their vendors right now, how they're receiving payments, right? And is there opportunities to maybe save them a day or two, and then so they can, at the end of the day, I have conversations where they thought they needed a working capital line, and then when we start working backwards on what are their internal processes, how they invoicing, how they're getting paid, and then especially in this day, even if you talk to your vendors and say, hey, if I pay you with corporate card today, so you get cash today, would you give me a discount, a 1% discount? And maybe they've done that like 18 months ago, but in this environment, that vendor is going to think about it, because now they are tapping into a line that's maybe a high interest rate that they may be willing to take that discount, right? So just that's the basic when we have conversations on working capital, and you'll be surprised. I mean, 1 day savings, I mean, you guys know this, could make a huge difference in the working capital for a company. And of course, there's a time where like manufacturing companies and companies that really need that working capital line, then the SBA is a great product as well. Because like I mentioned, the express line, 500,000, and then when you go up on the higher end, cap line, it's the other product that it can be used for working capital. Cashin, is there anything else that I missed there? Sorry, Martin.
I was just going to say, I'm going to take the opportunity again that what you're talking about maybe is inventory turns and day sales outstanding, and getting a discount from your supplier, or at least paying them on 30, not paying them on 15 days. You find all that stuff out in your books.
Yeah.
You're not going to know what your day sales outstanding, how long it takes you on average to collect your receivables if you don't have good books. That stuff very few people think about. But I did an example for a guy the other day, and if he could reduce his day sales outstanding, in other words, the days it took to collect his receivables, he would free up $54,000. This was his business of a certain size. He would free up $54,000 of cash. Hey, what do you mean? I mean, go collect your accounts receivable and pay your payables on the term. Don't, unless there's a discount or something. Anyway, sorry, I just plug in good books.
And the reason why I'm sharing that goes beyond the SBA, because I know you guys, coach your clients and that perspective. So I think we take the same approach. I mean, we take the consultative approach and kind of understanding, what's the working capital cycle looks like, and understanding that. And then we lay out the options. Yes, SBA could be an option. Maybe it's a conventional option. I mean, it doesn't have to be SBA. But I mean, that's before we get.
I want to say this too, because Gonzo's on here, but I make this point frequently. If you have a good banker and your banker is willing to tell you the criteria on which they evaluate you, go find out how they do that. Because you have a common interest. The bank wants you to survive and pay them back, and you want to survive because it's your business, right? So you may think they're jerks because you don't understand this or that. Well, go find out. And there was something else I say, if they won't tell you, then find another bank. So sorry, guys. You will tell them, right? So,
Yeah. And
Khalil, back to your question.
I don't know, Khalil, did I answer your question on working capital space?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And I think it's, obvious to a lot of people that they need working capital and that they a lot of times are not collecting their payments on time, or they're having to pay things down to get a lot of inventory in hand. And I think that it's a no-brainer to go for the working capital at least. And I think it makes a good point, Martin, that we talk about all the time is really you should be talking to your banker before you need them. You should start the process of having a relationship with the banker and even understanding SBA programs and looking into the future, because a lot of times when you need these things is not the right time to be providing your financials, and you're going to have a worse rate and you're going to be in a time crunch and there's more stress involved, and you don't want to have to jump through all the hurdles when it's too late. You want to be able to have that relationship, understand what opportunities are out there well in advance. So yeah, that's.
And I can
just
add
something to
there
think
too
about,
is, especially we were talking about acquisitions, but like when you're looking at that acquisition opportunity, like I will be asking your banker is like, hey, am I buying a business? Let's say it's $1 million business today and revenue, 10 employees, right? And then they say, you know what? I want to buy this business and I want to keep it to this size. Well, actually in 5 years or 10 years, I want to take this to a $20 million, $30 million company, right? And just asking your banker, like, hey, what resources do you guys have to help me with that growth? Because typically, they're just so focused on the interest rate today, on the transaction. But if they have that clear plan, like, man, in 5-10 years, this bank can, man, who knows, can help me. I'm going to need 401ks, insurance needs. I'm going to need more comprehensive financial institution to help me for that growth. Then those questions should be asked like early in the process, right? And I don't know, would you agree, Cashin?
Yeah, absolutely. Working capital, oh man, there's so many different ways to interpret it. I really like all the tools on your website. That's really cool, because contractor working capital is scrutinized more heavily than other businesses because it's the lifeblood of the business. So to Gonzo's point, not only do you want to be talking if you know it's going to be an SBA loan and a bank that's good at SBA lending, you also want to make sure they're a bank that understands contractor lending, because what you don't want to do is get into a situation where they're like, oh yeah, well, you cash flow, here's your $500,000 line of credit, good luck. But then you start to grow and your receivables, inventory all becomes a lot more complicated, and they don't have the acumen to grow with you. It's going to be very frustrating because you're going to have to go sit with a new bank, maybe 3 banks, retell your story, asking for a larger line, all while you're juggling your business. So attaching your, wagon to the right horse early on, if growth is your goal, is very important.